In your top left, it's actually a residential lobby. In your top right is a co-working space. It's WeWorks. In your bottom left is Capital One Cafe, which is the new banking reimagination. So if you said you haven't heard the term reimagination, how many folks have heard the commercials for Capital One Cafe? They call it banking reimagined. Why? Because banking has been the most boring space ever created in mankind. Am I right? I'm Bank of America, and I don't even go to the bank because I use this now. And I grew up, my mom and I used to go to World Savings, the most boring place I can remember as a kid. But what is Capital One Cafe doing to their banking space? They're creating a cafe, they're creating an environment, they're creating a living room. It's something far more interesting and frankly innovative. And then on the bottom right was a hotel lobby. So housing, office, retail, hospitality are coming together. Here's the bright idea. Cities and the private sector in this partnership that we call public-private partnerships really need to work together. And they can benefit from understanding the trends that I'm sharing with you, having good data. You've heard of big data, you've heard of smart cities, which the mayor touched upon. And if Solvang wants to move to a really smart city, it's about data. Having good information and using technology. Because data today is like the new dollar. And so working together and being strategic on economic development. That's what I'm supposed to be speaking to you about, is economic development. It's really about real estate, land use, public-private partnerships. So anyways, let me go through this pretty quickly too, but smart data. I have a bunch of demographics that we pulled for the city. It's a mature population. I just gave you guys a compliment who are residents here, right? How many of you folks are millennials in the audience? Which is 18 to 35. You young folks, which I love seeing, you guys are Gen Zs, right? 5 to 17-year-olds. How about a shout out for the Gen Zs in the front row? I have two kids, one's a millennial and one's a Gen Z. And that's a long story. We don't have enough time to talk about those guys, but they're great kids. They're helping me pretend to be a millennial. I'm not a millennial, I know you guys think I am. But I'm pretending to be a millennial. And being a millennial is how we communicate, how we commute, how we consume. And the reason I bring up the millennials is because there's about 80 million of them in our country. And when you combine the millennials and the Gen Zs, that's 130 million people with $750 billion buying power. So when we talk about cities and when we work with cities, we do want to think about the future. And if you all have 7,000 folks, give or take, that live in the city boundaries, but your hotel revenues are going up and your downtown is getting all kinds of activity at your festivals, somebody from the outside is coming in and helping support your community. If 50% of your revenues come from transient occupancy tax, that means people are staying in hotels. And there's probably a greater opportunity to build more hotels so you can accommodate those high-value customers. Well, my point is who's coming into town? If they are the millennials who want to spend money and have an experience, we need to know about them. We need to think about it. And some of the questions we ask our cities and our clients is, are you millennial ready? So the percentage of Gen Zs and millennials in the city of Solvang is, say, 33%. The percentage of millennials and Gen Zs in Santa Barbara County is 44%. The average is about 40% across our country. So that means that we've got younger folks coming into town looking for an experience. And if they don't get it here, they're going to go someplace else. The generational wealth of millennials will be 4 times as much in a 15-year period. So we need to keep in mind, these are folks who are going to have wealth, and they're going to be spending a lot of money. Half the revenues are from occupancy tax. We do the retail leakage analysis. There's a lot of healthy retail in the city in different categories: restaurants, clothing, miscellaneous retail, which is gifts. Those are all at a healthy level for the city of Solvang. And then very quickly, this is a great graph. It's so confusing. You know, I have smart people that work for me, and they put these graphs together, and they expect me to explain it. So I'll just tell you in a nutshell, the trend, there's been ups and downs in the market over the last 15 years. And right now, rents are strong, and vacancy is very stable and low. It's a very good metric. That's the bottom line to what this tells us. So I have a plan. I think for cities, education, which is kind of what we've been doing. The city's hired our company to help in the education process. Engagement, which is this picture right here. If we took a picture of all of us today, this is a great example of engagement. And then entitlement. What do we want to entitle? What do we want to build? So I use Einstein again, and I won't go through each of these, but he's a great way to show how all these things have been really, or how all these steps are really important in having a plan. Economic development and the tools. I don't know how to slide that so messed up, but it did. But the city is embarking on economic development. Just by means of having these discussions with the community, having firms like ours come in and help with economic development strategies and real estate strategies and other marketing efforts on their part, and really trying to make a change within the community and be forward thinking and think out of the box is a version of economic development. So have a playbook, which is what they're doing. They're being offensive, not defensive. Build a bridge. Here's all the different folks that I used in my past presentations on retail trends. I've had a lot of fun with it, including George Costanza back in 2013 when I talked about big box shrinkage. Anybody know Seinfeld? George Costanza? Could you imagine him on this entire screen? Anyways, I get usually a pretty good laugh out of it. Let me close. I'll use a quote from Einstein. That's insanity. Insanity is defined by Einstein as doing the same thing over and over again and expecting the same results. I would say this city and this city council is not stuck in that rut. So I think there's a lot to look forward to accordingly. Thank you.
All right. We're a little past time here, but we still have the Niels Rocks students. I'd like to invite you up for a minute. I actually was just in Copenhagen. I got to see their campus and meet the mayor of Frederiksberg, and it was great. There are about 3,200 students, I believe.
Hi everybody, we are from Copenhagen Business College, and we are part of a project over here where we want to try and do our best to help Solvang be the great town it is. Yes, hello. So we have a presentation. Our group, me, and we have a bunch of we have different groups, and we want to talk about how we can promote Solvang and how we can help in doing that. Yeah. So we're going to start. Our group, we're focusing on Danish events and festivals we have in Denmark. We're going to try to bring that into Solvang. We have a lot of different successful events in Denmark, and we're going to try to recreate that in Solvang. We are planning to make 2 events, one in the spring and one in the fall. And these will be for all age groups, and mostly, like Mr. Cameo said, it will be a market that will be created for the millennials. And we will have different promotional options, mostly social media and also the food trucks.
Yeah, and we want to collaborate with some of the other projects that you will hear about afterwards. And we want to create some concerts with Danish and American music to integrate some of the Danish music here in the US.
And we will generate revenue in the student parts of the year, and we will attract tourists and locals, and we'll emphasize the Solvang brand by doing that.
Yes. And our project is to get more an event creative, and we really want to focus on this old Danish tradition known as Sønderjysk Kagebrag, which is basically it's what do we call it, cake buffet with a lot of different cakes and pastries, and to really get this taste of Denmark into the city of Solvang. And it has been used for a very long time in Denmark for a couple of centuries now as a way of creating this community feeling and a better relationship between the different generations here existing in Solvang, and to really try and get a more Danish feeling in here and into this town, and to use this word known as hygge in Denmark, and to really get that to be the feeling here and to create this quality time.
So our aim is to give Solvang a slice of Danish hygge, in other words, Danish identity. And this will be doing through an event on the Danish Queen's birthday, April 16th, where we will give the opportunity to the Valais bakeries to promote their cakes. And this will create an enhanced competition. And what we need is the bakeries to get out of their stores and meet their customers' demand, and also give this Danish connection, which requires them to change their product range, meaning that they have to start baking cakes that are served in modern Denmark and not centuries ago, and this will contribute to a wholehearted experience.
Is this good? Oh, okay. So our project is a Danish food court in collaboration with other buildings and infrastructure being built by the city council.
So our idea with this Danish food market is that we have something called Papirøen in Denmark, which is basically this big hall where there's a lot of different food with food from all over the world, and that is basically what we are trying to do here.
Well, in essence, what we want to do is recapture the reflection that is modern-day Copenhagen onto Solvang. That being that we shouldn't only just have the traditional Danish foods, we should also have things that other tourists can see and reflect themselves into as way by their culinary experience in our town and in this food market.
So looking at the financial side of things, it will really help local businesses, especially catering companies and food trucks. It will give them a place to serve their food more than just special events and things like that, and give them a lot of new customers if they're going to special events and things like that. Yeah.
And Solvang has always been a city with big personality, and we really want to keep it that way. But in order to do that, we still want to, improve the city, and in that way, we want to do it with the booth. And we want to do it with the booth. So the people who are owning these booths in the new food hall have to decide for themselves how they want to decorate their booths, how they represent them, and how they can do it in a way where they still combine the spirit of Solvang, but also combine the spirit of their hometown or where they come from.
All right, so let's give it for the Niels Brock students.
Okay, we don't have a PowerPoint, but we are the social media group. What we're going to do is we are going to do some targeted marketing on different social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and make sure that the that people get what's relevant to them, so we could drive more people to specific events here in town.
So in essence, we want to make it easier for tourists to find information about different events going on in Solvang, and also make the events more popular, and so we can get some more economic growth in Solvang.
Yeah, we also want to keep the Solvang spirit, so we like keep it Danish, keep it old school, but also modernize the city so it's more new branded. Yeah.
Sorry. Hi, our project is Smart Cities, and we want to make Solvang more like modern Denmark by using technology.
We want to develop a number of applications to implement a smart city network in Solvang. This will help everyone from tourists to locals to government institutions affected by everyday living.
Yeah, first time. We have a commercial on the show from a classic Danish brewing company called Carlsberg.
They say that good Danes are the happiest nation in the world. So, what's our secret? Could it be that we find joy in nature? Is it that we keep working and life is perfect balance? Is it that we make time for eating, feeling all fuzzy and snuffy together? Something the Danish way means searching for a better way. Are we happy because we create beautiful things? Maybe it's choosing simple style over fast possessions. Or could the secret of our happiness be down to creating what we believe is the best here in the world? Probably.
So this was a commercial from Carlsberg, which is a big Danish company, and what we want to try to do, what my group wants to try to do, is make a promotional video of Solvang that kind of does the same thing.
So what we basically want to do, as Rasmus just said, we want to make a video that shows what Solvang is, but we want to incorporate the term hygge and kind of rebrand Solvang, but still keep the Danish heritage, and just show, like, put Solvang on the map for good. Yeah.
All right. So that's it for the Niels Rocks. Thank you guys very much. With that, we have a little more time for any public comment or questions. We'll try our best. Otherwise, we have a lunch session. We'll be doing some of the same content that's here, a little more business oriented. So that was also available on a YouTube live stream for those that aren't going to that. I encourage you to watch that. And you can always reach out to the council anytime, council@cityofsolving.com. Any questions or feedback, you can always call me, or you can call the city. My cell number is 05-450-9003. With that, is there any public comment or questions? Okay. So maybe with that, we'll adjourn this and move over to our lunch session.